SpaceX has a new plan for Starship, and the Boeing Starliner experiences another setback. This week, a small lunar lander from Japan became the latest in a rapidly growing list of failed attempts to reach the surface of the moon, a once barren and desolate place that is quickly becoming a spacecraft graveyard. A Japanese spacecraft was moments away from making history, then it went silent. Just 192 meters above the moon's surface, its signal vanished without warning. The ill-fated lander, known as Resilience, is from a Japanese startup called ABSpace, and is part of their ABSpace series, one that has attempted a moon landing before and also met with disaster along the way. Resilience had been traveling from the Earth to the moon for about 5 months before it was finally ready to complete its final approach. No crash confirmed, no touchdown celebrated, just a sudden stop in data that left engineers stunned. This wasn't just a technical glitch, it was a mission packed with science, symbolism, and ambition. The Hakuto, or Mission 2, led by private Japanese firm ABSpace, launched in January 2025 aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9. It actually launched on the same Falcon 9 rocket as another lander, the Firefly Blue Ghost. Leaving the Earth on January 15, Blue Ghost took a more direct path to the moon, and ultimately became the most successful American lunar lander in decades. While Blue Ghost was making history, Resilience was taking a scenic route to the moon, one focused on conserving energy and maximizing safety. Its lander named Resilience was bound for a soft touchdown on the Mar-for-Goris, a relatively flat lunar plane ideal for safe landing. This marked ABSpace's second attempt to reach the moon, after its 20Th-23 mission ended. Similarly, Resilience entered lunar orbit by early May and completed several preparatory burns, precisely positioning itself 100 kilometers above the moon's surface. On June 5, the descent began. It's a sound theory, but as space enthusiasts tuned in to watch the landing, what we saw was less than ideal. A little over 1 minute before the expected touchdown, telemetry disappeared from the on-screen display, leaving just an animation of the lander for us to watch. The animation continued for a few seconds before that too dropped out, and the camera cut to a live image of our flight director. He was sitting there with his hands on his face, and it was clear something had gone terribly wrong. All systems were executing as planned until the final 2 minutes, when telemetry abruptly ceased. The landers now point to a critical delay in the lander's laser rangefinder, which caused miscalculations in altitude. The lander could not decelerate fast enough, resulting in a high-speed impact. The rest of the team also became very somber, and you could basically see the hope draining from their bodies. Some people stayed at their post looking through data while the rest paced around the room anxiously. It was only after the stream ended that any official word was given about the lander's fate, which came as no surprise. Resilience had been lost during the landing attempt and had smashed into the moon. Contact was lost when it was just 192 meters from the surface. While teams are still looking through data to find a definitive cause for the vehicle's failure, it's clear that something went wrong with the laser rangefinders aboard the craft. The rangefinders, which measured the distance from the surface to the moon using lasers, is essentially the same LiDAR technology that you'll find in many autonomous vehicles and robots. This sensor experienced a glitch where the rangefinders didn't return their measurements in time, which delayed essential data from being received by the flight computer. When the rangefinders eventually produced those measurements, it was too late, and Resilience didn't have sufficient time to slow down, and it smashed into the moon at breakneck speeds, probably something in the neighborhood of 50 meters per second. ABSpace would describe this event as, quote, a hard landing. This failure would be unfortunate for any small company trying to reach the moon, however. It was especially bitter for ABSpace, as this was their second attempt at the Silver Globe. Their first mission ended when the lander ran out of fuel while still high above the surface and made another, quote, hard landing. This is a real shame, because the Hakuto, or lander, is actually a very capable machine. On paper, the lander has 8 sides and almost resembles a rounded cube with solar panels. Hakuto has 7 engines beneath it, 6 of which are used for maneuvering in another 4. Descent. This is held up by 4 wide landing legs. This flight, as well as the previous one, were both meant to prove Hakuto or as a viable landing system. Now the future of the company and their design hangs in the balance. Also, the second landing attempt for a small company was dreams of reaching the moon, and also experienced a hard landing that was largely blamed on a laser altimeter, which is interesting. By contrast, the Firefly Blue Ghost did not rely on a LiDAR system and instead used a camera vision-based AI algorithm for its primary navigation. Now obviously Firefly will have to repeat their landing success to ultimately prove that it was more than just good fortune, but at the same time, repeatable failure would appear to show more than just bad luck. There is something wrong with the approach that most modern tech companies are taking when it comes to landing on the moon. Speaking of which, Elon Musk's SpaceX has ambitions to land their Starship rocket as far away as the planet Mars, and we've just got an interesting look at the company's new plan to meet that goal. Ultimately, the success of Starship is going to rely on an incredibly high volume of launches, which is going to require a large amount of infrastructure to be built here on the Earth. They need more launch pads, which in turn also have to support Starship landings as well. And the first step in accomplishing this will be to expand Starship operations from Texas to Florida. Of course, SpaceX is still very much in the process of figuring out how to fly their Starship successfully, but it seems like they aren't willing to wait to build an empire to support that rocket, if and when it does become operational. It proved ABSpace could independently deploy a spacecraft to the moon without state support or public funding. The disappointment lies not in planning but in the narrowest of margins. In spaceflight, 192 meters might as well be a mile. One delayed sensor disrupted an otherwise controlled sequence, highlighting how lunar landings remain one of the most difficult feats in modern space engineering. What separates this mission is that it operated outside NASA's CLPS program with no direct government support, funded instead by partners, investors, and clients seeking data and demonstration value. Each payload reflected strategic intent. The radiation probe aimed to build real-time safety models for lunar astronauts. The algae growth system explored self-sustaining life support for long missions. The hydrogen from water tech was designed to test ISRU, a concept vital to surviving off-Earth. These weren't just prototypes, they were functional first steps toward lunar habitation. Unlike earlier lunar crash stories, Resilience's loss wasn't due to basic engineering gaps. It was a flaw in final phase sensor integration, an issue fixable with software refinement and redundancy planning. The earlier 2023 failure was tied to a misread of lunar terrain. This time, the lander misjudged its own height, not terrain shape. These types of issues are consistent with the learning curve seen in early moon missions by government space agencies. Israel's Beresheet, India's Chandrayaan-2, and even NASA's early surveyors failed under similar descent phase pressures. Now private companies are navigating that same unforgiving curve. Why does this really matter? Because a lunar transport economy is emerging. NASA, China, and private stakeholders are racing to establish footholds on the moon. Logistics, infrastructure, and science transport will all depend on dependable frequent landings. Firms like ABSpace are early contenders to provide those services. Even in failure, Resilience moved the benchmark. It didn't just prove the spacecraft could survive launch, deep space, and lunar orbit. It did so while integrating multinational partnerships and commercial science. That's a huge step toward what comes next. Landers as lunar delivery systems, science packages deployed on demand, and a moon that's no longer unreachable but scheduled. For ABSpace, the crash is not a stopping point. It's a pivot. The company has already confirmed missions 3 and 4 set for 2027 will debut the Apex 1.0 lander. This next-gen model is twice as massive, more redundant, and designed to carry larger payloads, including infrastructure components. Apex will also include automated fault recovery, cross-sensor validation, and reprogrammed descent protocols. All areas identified from Mission 2's postmortem. The lessons from the resilience crash are being directly fed into these design changes. This isn't theoretical planning, it's strategic development with real clients and timelines. iSpace's business model involves offering lunar delivery services to research teams, governments, and commercial entities looking to test lunar technology. It's the space equivalent of freight logistics. As Artemis prepares to send humans to the moon, and international players scale up lunar goals, the demand for modular, reusable landing systems will only grow. And while iSpace isn't the only one chasing this vision, its independence sets it apart. They've proven they can develop and launch without national agency dependency. Moreover, the symbolic aspects of their missions, like Moon House, reflect a broader human-centric philosophy. And exploration should carry science, art, and international collaboration. These aren't just scientific projects, they are cultural statements. CEO Takeshi Akuma's post-landing message reflected this vision clearly. The most important thing is to find the cause. His focus wasn't emotional, it was technical. That mindset is what transforms crash data into refined success. Whether or not Apex 1.0 lands in 2027 without incident, iSpace has already stepped into the role of an agile, resilient, lunar infrastructure pioneer. They're in a position not just to try again, but to lead in what's becoming a high-stakes industry. Lunar space is evolving. The players who adapt fastest will define the next generation of space access. With the right corrections, iSpace may be among them. The moon doesn't forgive small mistakes, but it rewards persistence. Resilience didn't land, but it showed us how close private industry has come. With more data, stronger hardware, and smarter design, iSpace's next mission could be the breakthrough.
And that's about it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and that's all for today's update. If you enjoyed watching and found it useful, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. And if you want to support our channel and if you want to be up to date, you can become an exclusive member, so click on our perks through the link in the description below. Thanks to watching and see you next time.